Thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. He's a New York Times bestselling author. The Wall Street Journal calls him a top influencer on the web. Forbes says he's one of the top 10 marketers, and Entrepreneur magazine says he's created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. He's been recognized as a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30 by President Obama and a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 35 by the United Nations. Neil Patel is the famed digital marketing legend, author, keynote speaker, and the co-founder of Crazy Egg, Hello Bar, KISSmetrics, and Neil Patel Digital. He's helped companies like Amazon, NBC, GM, HP, and Viacom grow their revenue. And on this episode, we'll discuss some best practices in marketing to help your business grow. So let's listen to Neil, the legendary marketer, and me, the legendary shark, on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Neil, thank you so much for joining us on A Shark's Perspective. I think I feel like if someone doesn't know who you are and they're a digital marketer, then they've probably been living in a cave too long. I mean, obviously, the accolades are along with your background, with all the companies that you started and sold and started again. And I know the Wall Street Journal calls you a top influencer on the web, and Forbes calls you a top influencer in online marketers. Entrepreneur magazine said that you were a top entrepreneur under the age of 30, and President Obama and the UN recognized you as a top influencer as well. Could you give us a brief overview of what made you fall in love with marketing? I know I saw initially that you started a company, hired a few different marketing agencies who didn't perform like you wanted. That happened over and over, and then you taught yourself marketing. But other than teaching yourself marketing, what was it that made you just really grab a hold of it?
It was, for me, it was addicting to see like your visitor count go up. Like, I just loved it. And that was one of the most addicting things for me. And, it's when you end up doing that, I look at it as when you find something that you're good at and your traffic just like keeps going up and you find yourself addicted to something because you're so passionate about it or it's a challenge, eventually you end up loving it. So it's like, for me, I didn't start off loving marketing. I loved the chase. I loved the challenge of trying to grow my visitor count and sales. And I got addicted to it so much so that I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
And that probably inspired you to provide better service to your own customers as well, I'm assuming, because you've been there and seen how lower performing agencies can perform.
Yep, exactly. So it's like, you know, overall, and going back to your question on like just loving marketing or anything, it's funny. I talk to so many people, and the biggest thing I've learned from them is you end up in many cases loving and being passionate about what you're naturally good at as well. And if you're unsure of what you do like, just keep trying different things until you figure out what you love.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also read that you were initially selling vacuum cleaners, so that I'm glad that wasn't your true passion. And door to door vacuum sales couldn't have been nearly as exciting as digital marketing.
And it was a pain in the butt carrying around the vacuum
Oh,
everywhere.
I can imagine. When a $1,600 vacuum?
Yeah, which is a ripoff as well,
No
right?
kidding. I think a Dyson's too expensive, but or a Roomba, but I can't imagine what that must have been like. So, what kind of areas in marketing technology excite you today? If you have the time, I know your schedule's insane, and the funds to finance that. What kind of martech tool would you want to, I don't know, if you had your magic wand, implement or even replicate today that would really get you excited?
Yeah, and I'm doing it right now with Uber Suggest, in which I'm building a lot of the features in SEMrush, BuzzSumo, Ahrefs, releasing it for free, making it more usable, and then eventually, as it gets traction, I'll start integrating machine learning on top of that.
Well, so you're one of the top marketing influencers of the world, but also who else inspires and influences you? If you were going to speak at a conference and you wanted to learn, whose content are you kind of jumping in to listen to? And are there just other brands maybe that you're seeing that, these are some best practices you need to implement and think upon and put out to your own clients?
Yeah, so like Brian Dean from Backlinko has
Yeah.
amazing content. More so, I'm following other people and looking at their tactics. So Billy Jean is marketing. I think that's his slogan. Uh, he's really good at YouTube marketing, so I like analyzing his strategies. Ty Lopez is really good at social media marketing. Same with Gary Vaynerchuk. I just like following different people and learning from 'em. Like there's a company called Agora that's amazing at copywriting, so I like learning from them. For me, it's all about just finding individuals who are doing things really good and learn and use it to get better at your skill.
If you were, kind of looking at your crystal ball, then what channels, do marketers need to start uber preparing for now? There's so many changes that happen with so many different tools that come and go. I mean, you've what started 3 companies that have, in particular, have really, blown up in a good way with success.
Yeah, they've done all right. Tools come and go. You got to keep adapting to the market, and you got to figure out what people need. I think the market's moved to a place where there's consolidation. There's too many solutions. There's too many There's too many tools out there. They're consolidating, and then what you're going to see is you're going to start seeing not only things getting combined, but you're going to start seeing more things like freemium and people trying to figure out how to just give away more at a reduced cost or not really charge for stuff. So um, 10 years ago when people build these marketing tools, you can go make money just on a feature, but now you gotta have more than just a feature. People don't want reports continually, they just want you to do it for them.
So when you speak about free stuff, your hacks, you and your knowledge, a lot of that you give out obviously for free. Your hacks are amazing. I also often, check out your blog with I think something like 2 million hits a month, and your daily videos. What's your favorite hack that marketers should pay more attention to today? Is there one that's just really stood out to you?
Yeah, there's one that's really simple that they don't use. It's push notifications. So you can
Mm-hmm.
use free tools like subscribers.com or whatever it may be. And you can just literally get free traffic back to your website because you take it, people subscribe with one click, and you can get them back to your blog or your site every time you publish content. One of the simplest and most effective strategies I've ever used.
So I want to dive into some of the specifics in digital marketing, and we'll start kind of from an SEO standpoint. What should everyone be optimizing for right now? I mean, do you focus when you give advice? Do you often add more focus on local, for example, or is voice something you're pushing a lot of people to optimize for now? Is it strictly off keywords? What sort of
No,
stands out to you?
it's voice. What did they say? Like 40 something percent of adults use voice search on Google on a daily basis. It's something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So, at least regarding paid search, then, and as you well know, paid ads are often the quickest fix and get you ramped up quickly, but you scale to a certain point and kind of plateau, and then the rest just becomes inefficient, makes Google a lot of money. Where are you going next with your clients with past paid search?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things like conversion optimization. It's the highest ROI for businesses, but very few of them focus on it. We're doing a lot of things like focusing on channels like push and email and marketing funnels. A lot of it isn't necessarily channels to acquire more traffic, it's converting them.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing most of the channels already exist for acquisition. It's more so very few people focus on the conversion end, right?
So in your own, you push out a lot of content. Is content and amplifying content a favorite of yours? And what is your favorite kind of content to that matter?
Yeah, my favorite kind of content is anything that's educational, actionable, like evergreen content. And it does well if you can just keep pushing and educating and helping people. It seems to be working really well. Just takes time, but it seems to work well.
So with regards to social, then let's jump to that. So there are obviously a lot of different channels in social, and I know you've mastered many, and it's such a great engagement and awareness for them. But with social, especially as it leads to performance marketing, where do you see the evolution? I sometimes think we're too reliant, obviously, on Facebook for lead gen in the social space, but where do you see it potentially going?
Yeah, with social, the way I see social going is the reach is going to decrease. They're going to be more picky on what they want to show. They want you to stay on the social platforms, but I see it all going towards video, voice, engaging content that isn't text and sending people off.
then getting to addressable, what are your thoughts on addressable targeting capabilities, either with first party data or first plus third party? Do you like it in social TV or some other channel? Do you use that as a practice?
I do. I pretty much try to use everything in test, and then
Sure.
whatever works the best, that's what I focus on.
So when you go in and start speaking with a lot of your potential clients, what are they doing poorly? And you covered a few, whether it's social or SEO or paid search. What are you seeing them kind of consistently doing poorly that your firm helps them stop doing and optimizes to do better?
The biggest thing that we see companies mess up on, and it's not necessarily one tactic, it's more so the concept of trying to do everything. And there's nothing wrong with trying to do multiple things. It's you need to get the foundation done right, and then you can go and expand. So a good example of this is I see people trying to do SEO, pay per click, content marketing, especially when they don't have a huge team, or even if they have a huge team, they're doing all of it versus, and none of them are done right. So you're seeing a lot of things that are mediocre.
So as a flip side of that, at least in what specialty do you see, the companies and advertisers you work with, what are they really excelling at the best?
What I see that they're excelling at the best is typically they figured out a product or service that people love, which isn't really marketing, but it's hard to
Sure.
market. So you need to focus on your product.
Or just at least understanding the data they're getting that points them in that place.
It's just looking at that data, figuring out, hey, what could be improved, what could be done better. But in general, when I look at all this kind of stuff in the companies and where they're messing up, and what they're doing right, a lot of times these companies that we're dealing with, they're not only focusing on the product, they understand, like you mentioned, that you need to look at the data and do what's best for the consumer. So when you try to get them to do marketing and look at the data, it's pretty easy to get them to be data driven versus be opinionated.
Where do you see, the duopolies obviously expanding? It looks like Amazon's, getting into that space. AT&T's looking to move closer into that. But where do you see the advertising channels growing beyond Google and Facebook? Where are you starting to think about your own focus with those channels plus the
Oh,
new ones?
it's going to get connected offline.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like your fridge will be like you're out of X, Y, and Z milk or almond milk or Blue Diamond milk. I don't know what brand. I don't shop really. And it'd be like click here to order another milk, or they'll be like, hey, click here to order this competitor milk. It's 98% of people think it tastes the same, and it's you know three-fourths the cost.
What are your thoughts on blockchain and where it's progressing with marketing and advertising?
Yeah, I think it's here to stay. I don't know. A lot of people when they talk about blockchain, they're talking about tokens.
Right.
Specific, who knows what's going to happen there? But the blockchain technology is definitely here to stay.
So a lot of when you look at your own agency compared to what a lot of other performance marketing agencies or in any type of agency setting, what do you kind of see and offer to your clients that's different? And I'm kind of hearkening back to your own experience when you were starting to market your own product and saw them performing badly. At least with Neil Patel Digital, where do you come in and really excel in areas that they aren't seeing with their agencies? I mean, how do you sort of set up that success, if you will?
So we stick to what we're good at, first of all. For example, I had someone hit me up who's a shoe company. They're doing well, and they're like, "Can you help us start Google Ads?" And they're spending quite a bit of money on Facebook ads. I'm like, "We don't really start campaigns from scratch. We're amazing at growing." Just like when someone comes to us and they have a brand new business, there's like, "Hey, can you help figure us how to grow?" Yeah, we can tell you the strategies and concepts, but we're not as good as that as we are scaling and growing. So we focus on what we're good at. We look at the companies that we know we can produce results for, and we're just honest and upfront. So, for example, the other day I was talking to a company. They were in uh, B2B e-commerce. They were selling like machines for companies, and they want to do SEO and all this kind of stuff. Now, when I look at my costs and what I would charge them, because we operate at 20% margins,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you can just buy the traffic for literally 1/6 the cost, and there's barely any competition. Like, it doesn't make sense to do SEO when you can just buy the traffic for
Sure.
1/6 the cost. So I was upfront. I was like, and yeah, we can manage it, but it would have been so cheap because there's just there's not that much competition. It's not that expensive, but each sale is worth over $1 million. I was like, you don't even need to pay someone to manage it. You can set it up internally. I'm like, it's not that hard when there's no competition.
What do you enjoy about speaking? I think I read where you'd spoken at close to 300 conferences. I've seen you speak as well. What do you enjoy about that?
I meet new people. I learn from the audience just like they learn from me.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, do you find? I mean, obviously, when you get the accolades that you're being recognized for consistently with your, by Forbes and Wall Street Journal and President Obama, I know it obviously helps open some doors. But how do you sort of manage, personally, making sure that the effort with those companies performs at your standards? And when you have the name Neil Patel, it's raised the bar so high. Does that make it more difficult for you, for your firm to necessarily perform successfully?
Of course, because everyone's expecting the same type of work that I produce for my own marketing.
Right.
And we do amazing work for clients. I don't know the exact stat, but it's something like over 100% increase in traffic within the first 6 months for clients on average. And we have a good amount of clients, so it's not like it's rare for us to see that. But the only reason I say it's troubling is a lot of times people want what I have, but they're not willing to make the changes or adapt fast. And because I'm in charge of my own destination with my own site, it's easy. When you're dealing with a Fortune 100 company who has, a marketing department of 600 or 1,000 or 2,000, it's not that easy to get changes done.
Sure.
So even though they want it and they say so, they can't necessarily get the changes done on time. And we work through with it and we help them get there. And typically almost everyone's happy. I wish I could say we have a 100% success rate. We have well into the 90% success rate. But it's because we're really picky and choosy also on what clients we pick. Like I mentioned, right? If I know another solution is cheaper, I just tell people. Or if people want us to do something we're not the best at, I tell them we're not the best at it.
Mm-hmm. Some of the best comments I've ever been told by agencies are when you ask them, what they're good at doing, and oh, we can fix every problem. Yeah, I've always respected, honestly, the ones that tell me that they're not good at X or Y, just because you at least know that they know where their sweet spot is in being successful, other than just selling me into an agreement.
Yeah, like I had a company the other day who wanted Reddit marketing, and I was like, my buddy Nadav from Inbound Junction is better than me at it. And I told them, and they're like, you don't want to work with us? And I'm like, no, I don't want to work with you guys. It's just he's better at it and he's cheaper. And you could work through me, but I don't care to middleman and take a fee. I'm like, just hit him up directly. I'm like, if you want an email intro, I can do one. But I'm like, I don't care for a cut or anything. I'm like, best of luck. And as they grow and are happier, hopefully because I'm doing what's best for them, maybe they'll come back in the future and work with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you've been obviously very successful as an entrepreneur. And, from a leadership standpoint, do you think you're easy to work for as a manager? And the reason I ask is there are a lot of, in any field, you're considered a cut above as far as, smart, creative performer. It's the Neil Patel mystique, if you will. And that can be intimidating to a lot of employees, especially if you're a driver manager.
Well, I'm an easy manager and easy to work with because I don't ever manage. So
That's smart.
I'm not in a manager position, nor do I have the role. Mike, my co-founder, runs the company. Like Nick runs sales. I just don't manage. I'm a terrible manager. I do think if I had a lot of people reporting under me, I would be hard to work with. I don't think I'm an easy boss. I think I'm quite a bit demanding. But yeah, in general, I don't think I'm the best manager out there. I would say I'm easy right now. It's because I don't really manage anyone. But if I did,
Good
probably
point.
wouldn't be the case.
So it's easy at your level, especially when you think of building businesses, to get locked into the business and the chains that come with that. How do you keep current at digital technology and trends at the pace you do? It's easy to lose, kind of your street cred, if you will, and you've got to obviously continually be cutting edge to survive in a quickly changing marketing world. But how do you keep at that pace? What do you sort of find is a best way to keep being a continual learner?
Yeah, the way I look at it is I love what I'm doing, so I continually read and stay up with it. I don't look at it as a job or a task, so I just naturally do it. I
Yeah.
read so often, and I'm trying to learn more of that. I don't really have that issue. If someone's not passionate, yeah, you gotta spoon feed them and force them. It just doesn't work as well.
If you look back on your own career, what is the most important thing that you've learned?
Focus. Sometimes I try to do too many things at once. I still do that every once in a while. I'm much better now than I was 5, 6 years ago, but still to this day, like sometimes I do a bit too much. And like right now, I'm building a free marketing tool, and I probably bit off a bit more than I can handle. And it's ridiculously hard and long hours, and I'm okay with it. But I'm just like, crap. I'm like, this isn't easy. And on
Mm,
top of that, it's causing me to burn around $150,000 a month extra, which is never easy, right?
I
But
bet.
it is what it is. I love what I'm doing.
So, where are you now with your life and your career? And the reason I'm going to ask this is because I've heard you talk on one of your videos about spending time with your dad. That was a real important focus for you and your family. One of the best videos I've seen from you that you put out on LinkedIn was talking about restaurants. I mean, all these showed a slightly different focus in your life. Are you at a point now where you can start? I think I've read where you maybe had one or two more startups in you, but are you starting to see your success and getting a chance to take the time to realize it?
Yeah, where I'm at right now, I still focus heavily on work, but I talk to my parents almost daily. Spend a lot more time with family and relax. And I do work, just not as hard as I used to 4 or 5 years ago.
So, where are you seeing going with your own brand in the future? What do you want to achieve that you haven't yet? What's the goal that Neil Patel has?
So I'm at roughly 2 million visits a month, 2.4, I think, 1.6, 1.7 million uniques. But forget visits, let's look at uniques. By the end of next year, I want to be at 4 million uniques a month.
Well, obviously, this podcast is going to put you really close. This is going to be the
There you
difference maker.
I love it.
So, I read that your number one goal is to share what you've learned with others. Why is that such an important focus to you?
When I started off, no one, a lot of the people who helped me didn't charge me anything. Like, no one cared to collect money from me. They just helped me. So, like, I like helping other people out, and I don't care if they pay or not. It doesn't make a difference to me. I just hope they succeed.
So I saw where you also want to focus at some, point post entrepreneur days on the nonprofit world. What kind of things are you looking to do in that space?
It is correct. It's changed over time. I used to want to help nonprofits market themselves, and I tried a lot of stuff in that. But a lot of the nonprofits move in a different way that necessarily doesn't align with me. So over time, I went from donating to tons of nonprofits, and then I went to, I'm not saying I donate a lot, but I would just pick ones I like each year. Then I went to helping them with their marketing, and now I've changed full circle in which the missus and I have our own foundation, and we just pick our own causes and help out however we see fit.
Well, Neil, I simply feel like just telling people to turn on their Google machine to find out more about you, considering the amount of content out there. But what's your preferred location to point people to in order to follow you? Is it your Twitter account, LinkedIn, neilpatel.com, or somewhere else?
Just neilpatel.com. I would say that's the easiest place.
Perfect. Thank you again, Neil, for speaking with us on A Shark's Perspective. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So there was my conversation with Neil Patel, the famed digital marketing legend, author, keynote speaker, and the co-founder of Crazy Egg, Hello Bar, KISSmetrics, and Neil Patel Digital. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from that conversation. First, in order to stay on the forefront, you've got to continue to read and continue to learn. Focus and don't try to do too many things at once. And yes, he's influenced by other smart people and brands in the space. It's about finding people who are really good and learn and use it to get better at your skill. Second, tools come and go. You've got to keep adapting to the market, and you've got to figure out what customers need. Third, one of his favorite best practices and hacks are push notifications. You can use free tools and get free traffic back to a website. It's just getting people to subscribe with one click and then push them back to your website whenever you post a blog or some other type of content. It's one of the simplest and most effective strategies that he's ever used. Got a question? Please feel free to find me on LinkedIn or send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this show regarding another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. Now go become a legendary marketer on your own and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.